Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm Rex Marco, and I'm a spine surgeon and musculoskeletal oncologist. And I was in a mountain biking accident 4 years ago. And now I live with C3 quadriplegia. And I thought we'd start today with some breathing exercises. So I'll invite you to close your eyes or have a slightly downward gaze and take a few deep breaths. And as you're able, feel the rise and fall of your belly. And we're going to do a 4-6 exercise where we breathe in for 4 and out for 6. So on your next in breath, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now on your own. Now take a few more deep breaths. And when you're ready, come back to the room and open your eyes. When the series of classes on cultivating joy are based around James Barras's book called Awakening Joy and Tara Brach's book called Radical Compassion. And James Barras has 10 steps that he recommends that we go through to awaken or cultivate joy. And the first step is intention. And raise your hand or raise your eyebrows if you listened or read that first chapter. Okay. And that's okay. I highly recommend it. It's helped me a lot. I thought that I had already learned how to awaken joy, moments of joy in my life. And after I listened to the book, it really helped me realize that there is so much more to cultivating or awakening joy. And in this chapter, he talks about something that a lot of things that really resonated with me in my life. And one of those things is when I first encountered mindfulness or mindfulness meditation. Right before that time, one of my sons came to me and sent me a quote, which is also in the book, and it's, "The best things in life aren't things. The best things in life aren't things." And that really resonated with me. And for me, things were important for me. I Things and experiences and vacations, for example, come to mind, where I would plan a vacation and spend months, if not a year, planning it. And then once I got there, I would be so busy trying to get through the itinerary and thinking about what my next vacation was going to be. I didn't have time to enjoy the vacation I was on. And I went through vacation after vacation like that. And it, the whole, my whole existence was like that. I was seeking for, searching for one experience or goal or thing after another. And I was equating happiness with getting something or getting someone. And once I was able to learn how to sit and be, I felt so much more peace and calm. And it reminds me of this cartoon that Tara Brach shows in her presentations of this mouse running on its little exercise wheel and another mouse next to it sitting inside the exercise wheel. And the quote says, "I had an epiphany." And I so much feel like that, like I was that mouse running on the exercise wheel, moving and moving and moving and not getting anywhere. And all of us want to be happy. And I equated happiness with being successful, a successful surgeon with a good income and a big house and a car I wanted to drive, and whether or not people liked me. And I was at a point when I really felt like I was on top of the world. I had what I called the American dream. I had all of that, and I just got promoted to vice chairman of the Department of Orthopedic Surgery. And then all of a sudden, a tragic event hit our family. And soon I realized that me and all of my family members were suffering from life-threatening disorders. And this was And then as more time went by and I started to uncover all these issues that we had, I ended up experiencing a tremendous amount of emotional pain as I went through a very traumatic divorce. And that's when I saw that quote, the best things in life are not things. And I was introduced to a book by Alan Watts called The Wisdom of Insecurity. And it introduced me to the concept of mindfulness and being present and living in this moment rather than worrying about the future and or dwelling on the past. And I also found another book called This Moment is Full of Wonders by Thich Nhat Hanh. And that book introduced me to and reminded me to be present in various ways, to either breathe would be one passage. And it was a work of his, a collection of his calligraphy. And one page would say, breathe. And I would close my eyes and breathe. And I'll invite you to close your eyes or have a slightly downward gaze and breathe. And another passage would say, breathe, my dear. Breathe, my dear. And another work would say, peace in myself, peace in the world, peace in myself, peace in the world. And I'll invite you to take a few more deep breaths, and when you're ready, come back to the room and open your eyes. And these works help me find some peace in this tumultuous time and of severe emotional pain. And I took a course called Mindfulness-based stress reduction. And that also helped me find some peace and calm inside. And all this relates to where I got to. And ultimately, I realized that if I practiced mindfulness, I could feel a sense of peace. If I took a deep breath, I could feel a sense of peace. And I soon enrolled in a parent-driven recovery program and learned how to love other people and love myself. And I was able to start noticing moments of happiness. And together, when I felt peace and love and happiness, I felt joy for the first time in my life, really, because to me, before that, joy was excitement. It was, it didn't mean all of those things. And in these steps, you'll hopefully get to the point where you may define joy as a moment of peace or contentment or the feeling of well-being, or the moment when you notice that you're experiencing a difficult emotion or you're lost in your thoughts, or a moment of joy where you experience something where you feel happy. And this chapter is something and step is something that I ignored in all of the other classes that I taught on cultivating joy and awakening joy. And I reread it and before this course and realized that why would he put this as the first step if he didn't want us to have it as the first step? And he explains so well as to why the journey to cultivating joy begins with setting a clear intention and consciously intending to be happy. And just saying the intention sets in motion a radical transformation where profound changes inside our body and mind occur. And the momentum of the positive change grows and grows as we learn to choose actions that align us with our intention to cultivate joy. And me, when I was experiencing the emotional pain, I was not, well, I became open to the possibility of easing the pain, but I still wasn't open to the possibility of finding joy in my life. And when we set an intention to find joy in our life, then we're able to be available for those moments when they're there. And some of you may come up with a phrase and your intention for awakening or cultivating joy, something like, I intend to allow more joy into my life. I intend to allow more joy into my life. And, or I want to experience more happiness each day. I want to experience more happiness each day. Or may I live with a greater sense of well-being. Whatever your intention, your phrase for your intention becomes, the more you say it, the more you'll notice those moments where there is joy or contentment or well-being or happiness or love or peace. He goes on to say, like many of us have heard before, is that everything changes and no experience or object can give us lasting happiness. Just like no circumstance or experience can definitely needs to keep us in sadness or depression. But for me, just like James Barras, I was always trying to hold on to pleasure and youth and fitness and summertime or wintertime, or the feeling of the powder under my snowboard, or moments of excitement. And so, what is the way out of this predicament where I'm constantly trying to hold on to only moments of excitement and happiness and pleasure? And what came to mind is this podcast that comes out of Plum Village, which is the village that Thich Nhat Hanh started when he was exiled from Vietnam. And the title of the podcast is The Way Out is In. The Way Out is In. And that's such a beautiful and amazing title to me. And in this step, we also learn that awakening joy isn't fulfilling goals or changing circumstances. It's about training our mind and heart to live in a way that allows us to be truly happy with our life as it is now, and not stop aspiring to grow or remain in harmful situations, but to find joy inside of us, right where we are. And that brings to mind a situation that I'm not really quite at liberty to say, but all of it, all of the details, but I recently lost a very important position for me, and someone decided to replace me with somebody else. And it was very sad and disappointed and disappointing. And I was very angry when I heard it. And they asked me what my thoughts were. And I paused and I took a deep breath and took another deep breath and realized I was angry and that it wouldn't serve me or the other person to lash out in that moment. And I wanted to say but or this, and I knew that the person had made up their mind. And I realized it was important for me to accept this change and commend him on his choice of person to replace me. Have some small talk and then sit in quiet by myself. And then I texted a friend of mine who talked about me working with him to build another program, a similar program. And he had mentioned this about a year before, and he happened to be available for a phone call. And I let him know that I was ready to pursue his dream and his vision. And I kept telling myself that with change comes opportunity, and with change comes opportunity. And lo and behold, a few months later, I'm going to be moving into that new position. And I didn't harm other people along the way. I'm doing my best to not act out in anger or resentment, and hope that everything goes well for the other people and for my new team. And it's really really came out of the work that I've done with Tara Brach and with James Barras. And in this step, he also talks about how people will notice. Everyone around you will notice when you start to do this work. And it's so true, because I was doing this work beforehand. And 1 moment. Oh, wait, I'll take a 1 second water break. Hold on. Thank you. I was doing this work beforehand and before my injury, and it really helped me through that difficult time um, around my injury and after my injury. And I thought I was aware of my senses and emotions, and I never felt anger before I started this work. And I was taught that it was important for me to feel anger and use anger as my strength, or to know that it can give me strength and that I don't need to suppress my anger. And if I was upset or angry that things weren't going the way I wanted it to go with my caregivers, I would do my best to hold a healthy boundary around that. And I recently realized that I was harming people with my anger. I wasn't recognizing my anger and knowing that the difference between anger that I was carrying from multiple generations in my family of origin, and a shaming type of anger, rather than being upset, and that anger and fear that things weren't going my way would lead to judgment, and that judgment would lead to harming other people, namely my caregivers. And just recently, um, which is about 2 years after I started the mindfulness meditation teacher certification program, one of my caregivers said to me that, You're a lot different now." And I didn't even notice this change that had occurred, and how much less shaming and guilting I am around my anger that I was carrying. And this past month has been an even bigger revelation to me that I don't need to harm people with any anger that I may feel. And some of the anger was driven by my need for others and myself to be perfect. And I wasn't giving myself or other people grace around whether or not they were human and could make a mistake. And there's been so much more peace and love and happiness in my life. And I'm sure, like the book talks about, or the step talks about, there's a ripple effect. It's like dropping a pebble in still water. There are waves that emanate from where that pebble entered the water. And when you set an intention to find or cultivate or awaken joy, there's going to be a ripple effect, and everyone's going to feel it and notice it. And it suggested that we set reminders or sticky notes or memos in your phone or on your computer or around the house. And my reminder was that book, This Moment is Full of Wonders. Every morning when I woke up, I would open a page or two or three and be with the breath or sound or listening. And so sometimes we think that we always have to have positive thoughts if we're trying to cultivate joy, and that we have to get rid of all negative thoughts. And that type of thought process usually has the opposite effect. And we'll try an experiment that is discussed in this step. I'll invite you to close your eyes and or have a slightly downward gaze and try not to think about these words I'm going to say. Pink elephant, pink elephant. Try not to think about it. Most of us will find that the harder we try, the more pink elephants we see. So cultivating joy it's not about only having positive thoughts. It's starting the journey with an intention and doing our best to stay in touch with that intention and doing our best to be patient and have compassion for ourselves and allow joy to be a part of our daily life. And little by little, it builds upon itself until it becomes a natural way of life. And that brings to mind another example. One is with my child. My youngest child is 3.5, and I've been able to experience so many more moments of joy. Even when he's crying, when he was a real little baby, I was trying to notice, was he hungry or irritated or lonely or in pain? And I could understand him. And my other kids, I never even tried to notice what kind of communication they were trying to do. And when I started doing the work in this book, I would notice when he smiles, and I would smile. And I don't ever remember noticing my other children's smiles when they were that age. And there's so much more, so many more moments of joy in my life. And there's another time recently when it was time to clean up, and sometimes it's difficult to get him to clean up, and he wastes time and throws more toys around. And this day he was using his stuffed tiger to help him clean up, and the stacks of tiles were flying all over the floor, and he kept using his paws, and a moment of, is he doing this on purpose, or he's going to be picked up pretty soon? we need to hurry. And then I just decided to take a deep breath and watch him. And soon he figured out how to pick up the tiles without throwing them all over the floor with his little stuffed tiger. And he cleaned up all the tiles with his stuffed tiger helping. And that was a moment of joy, which I never would have been able to notice before. And we'll take a couple-minute break and then go right into the meditation at 40 minutes after the hour. All right, everybody, welcome back. So I'll invite you to close your eyes or have a slightly downward gaze. Take a few deep breaths. Notice your touch points where your body may be touching your chair or the ground or your mat or your cushion or your bed. Now think of a time when you felt real joy. Maybe it was skiing down a mountain or watching your dog or pet or being with a child. Bring to mind this moment where you felt real joy. Now do your best to vividly recall in detail the colors, the sounds, the smells. Notice what you're feeling in your body. Where do you notice these feelings in your body? Is it a sense of expansion or swelling in your chest? or tingling throughout your body. Are you smiling? Notice what your state of mind is as you imagine this joyful experience. Maybe there's a sense of being uplifted or feeling open and alive. Now let those feelings of well-being register deeply. Breathe them in feeling them pervade throughout your body. And throughout your mind. And ask yourself, how would your life change if this kind of joy were increasingly part of each day? And in the last few moments of this meditation, take a few more deep breaths. And when you're ready, come back to the room and open your eyes.